Hey guys, so last week on my weekly email list, I sent out an email and asked people if they wanted me to review their website or their business for free on our podcast and on our blog on wpcurve.com/blog. And I got a bunch of replies, and this is the first one of those. So this is a website review for Cars 4 Motor Group, and I'll go through a bunch of different areas of feedback that Richard, the founder, can have a think about when he's considering reviewing his site. So first of all, WP Curve, what we do is we empower entrepreneurs to build their business and stop worrying about WordPress. So we give them 24/7 access to the world's best developers for maintenance, support, and unlimited small jobs, and we charge $69 a month for that. You can check that out at wpcurve.com. And we put a lot of content up on our blog as a way of marketing our business and helping other entrepreneurs. So you can check our blog out at wpcurve.com/blog. Our website review template is a Google Doc, which is about 20 pages long, and it analyzes websites in about 10 different areas. And these are the areas here. So these are the things I look at when I kind of try to determine whether a website is effective or not. And it's specifically for small businesses, startups, and it looks at things like the overall business branding, copy, design, conversion, technology, and all of these kind of factors in working out whether your website is effective. And you can download that at wpcurve.com/cars, which is where this presentation will live. And it's a free Google Doc, and you can use that to review your own website. In this presentation, I'm going to be looking at cars4motorgroup.com.au, and it would take me forever to go through every single one of those criteria. So I'm going to look at the overall name and positioning, and I'm going to look at the copy, and I'm going to look at the conversion, because they're the three things with this particular site that I think can be improved. So I'll show you the site first. This is cars4motorgroup.com.au. Richard runs his business, which is effectively a brokerage for people looking for cars. If you're looking for a car, you call Richard, and he has relationships with the dealers. He finds the car. You don't pay him anything. You just basically connect with him. He connects you with the dealer. The dealer pays him a reasonable amount for finding the car, much like a mortgage broker would work if you're buying a house. His business is, as I understand it, 100% offline at the moment. Like, his leads come through in person, and he wants to build a website that's going to drive him some leads through online. All right, so where do I start? I'll start with the overall name and business position, because with the website review template, I don't specifically delve into the name of the business and like how you're positioning the business, but I put at the top of the template, that's something that can have a massive impact on your website. So, I mean, if you have like a kind of a weird name that doesn't fit right, or if you position your business in an unusual way that doesn't really help customers relate to it, then it doesn't really matter how effective and how nicely designed your website is. So it's kind of like one of those fundamental things. And with this business, I kind of feel like this positioning and the naming is a little bit off. And again, this is, I mean, I don't know whether Richard is even open to this level of feedback or if he's completely committed to this, but I'm just going to go through and say what I think. And I kind of warned him that I wouldn't hold back. So what I would normally do when thinking about a business like this is I would start by benchmarking off other websites. So, and when I say normally, this is what I always do. I always look at other websites to get some inspiration on and how to position your own site. The first thing when I go to this cars4motorgroup.com.au, if I'm thinking like a customer, say for example I'm on carsales.com.au, I'm having a look for a new car, maybe one of these. I'm having a look for one of those, CL45, and I see an ad for Cars4 Motor Group saying, "You live your life, we'll find your car." I'm not sure how likely I am to click on that. I kind of think like if I see that Cars4 Motor Group, I kind of think it's a big business, or I think it's an auction house, or it's a physical car yard. It doesn't seem like a service that helps individuals kind of really efficiently find their cars. And I think like there's a bit of an opportunity here to position this business as, or this website as like a kind of like an exciting startup that's a really simple way to find your car that you don't have, going through a traditional car yard or an auction house or whatever. With this kind of Cars4 Motor Group, the branding and the name, it just sort of feels like that. So in terms of benchmarking, there's a few things I'd look at. First of all, I don't know this industry, so I don't know if there's like a kind of a best practice in this industry, but the absolute best case would be if there's another company in the industry who's the company that Richard looks up to the most, have a look at what they're doing, and see how they're positioning themselves, what's their name, how they're getting customers, or what does their site look like, that kind of thing. In the absence of that, I've got a few other options. One is to look at related industries. So I've picked mortgage choice because that's that's for if you're buying a house, the mortgage choice will hook you up with lenders. So it's just a mortgage brokerage, which is similar to what his service is, kind of like a car brokerage. So this is one example of the sort of site I would look at in terms of benchmarking what to do with his site. So if you look at this, I mean, the name is just really simple, really easy to remember. The branding's really clear and simple. The design is immaculate. I mean, it's just really nicely simple design stuff. This looks like a nice modern website. This does not. And I think I'll talk about copy a bit in this because the copy is really important. If you look at like the copy here, you can see that these words don't get made up by accident. They're kind of, mortgage choice probably know how people are feeling when they want to buy a home loan or when they want to buy a house. And so they come up with these words because, you know, they kind of, people relate to them. So, you know, there might be words that make people think, you know, this is a good time to buy. And maybe that's responding to their objections around, you know, should I buy a house right now? Is this the right time to buy? It's going to be stressful. So they use words that are going to make people think it's not stressful, and imagery that makes people think, you know, they're going to be happy and all this kind of stuff. So this stuff is like really well thought out. And obviously really nicely designed as well. And there's a bunch of proof. So I'll talk about this a little bit later as well, is when people go to a site like this, they want to feel like their details are secure, they're dealing with a good company, there's other good companies who are using them, or there's some kind of proof that this is a real business. And we fill our site with this stuff as well, and this is an example of proof in here. There's a bunch of really useful content that explains it. Like to me on here, this copy here just doesn't answer my fundamental questions about what this service is. And I'm sort of getting into some of the copy stuff now, but this is an example. It's a really nicely designed site. It's dealing with these objections. So what is a mortgage broker? A nice video and it's explained there. So anyway, more social proof here, and lots of FAQs and lots of content to kind of prove that they're legitimate and they're helping people. But I guess the point for this is find businesses like this to benchmark off. I mean, mortgage choice may not be the one because it's not the same industry, but gives you some example. I like to look at startups as well. So I've got a few other in here. I started thinking about like startups that link people to another service. In other words, some kind of marketplace, because that could also help you, even though that's not really what this is. It can still help you in showing you how these companies go about attracting people to the service and making it appealing and interesting. HomeJoy is one example. So just a really simple site dealing with these objections. So, you know, giving people the price, they're probably worried it's going to cost them too much. Probably worried people are going to steal something, so they've got, you know, bonded and insured and all of this kind of stuff. Social proof, there's 61,000 likes, really simple call to action, really clear button, really nice graphics, more proof here with the logos, explaining how the service works. So if people aren't exactly sure how it works, it's just all explained, guaranteed. So that's, again, minimizing risk. Again, with proof here, other customers who use the service. And I'll talk about this in terms of the process later on, but that's one site you could look at. There's a bunch of others. There's I'll be looking at any kind of marketplace. The other thing about these sites is the names are just really simple. So if you look at HomeJoy or Dog Vacay or any of these ones, they're just a really simple, easy name for an individual to relate to. And these are services that are targeted directly at consumers, which Cars4 Motor Group is as well. It's not a service that's targeted at businesses. It's, as far as I know, it's a service that's targeted at people who want to buy a car. So you have to have a name that's going to kind of get people to relate to what you're doing. And if you look at these other startups, you can kind of see what they're doing with really simple naming and really simple, clean design and images that get people to kind of relate to them on a personal level. The other two resources I've got in here is one I like to do is have a look at AngelList, because AngelList is basically a list of every startup in the world who could be bothered adding themselves to AngelList, which is most serious startups. And they have a bunch of categories. So whatever industry you're in, there'll be a category for your industry. So the other day I was talking to someone about a beer-related company and had a look on AngelList, and there's a category in there for beer-related startups. Under automotive, there's 1,400 companies, 1,300 investors, all sorts of awesome resources for automotive companies. And you can look at like who are the most significant companies on here, look at their site. So Uber, obviously look at their site and look at kind of how amazing that is. And I would probably spend a bit of time going through here and looking to see if there's any startups that are linking people with purchasing cars. A lot of these are sort of like Airbnb for cars and Uber and ride sharing and that kind of thing, but which is still good to get ideas from, because they're still consumer services. But have a look to see if there's any ones that are like brokerage type services, or even just look for other companies that brokerages in other industries, and you'll find a lot of these businesses are funded businesses, and they've got a lot of really awesome effort being put into their design and their branding and their naming and everything else. So that's a good place to start. The other one I like is Product Hunt, and it's not just for products; it's for services, and basically any kind of startup ends up on Product Hunt. And a lot of these ones, the ones that kind of get to the top, are always kind of interesting, and they're well designed, and the names are just so simple and people can relate to them. These are like often consumer or even just B2B startups, but it just gives you an idea of what other people are doing. And the ones that get to the top are typically ones that are people are relating well to, because they're kind of getting the upvotes and they've created a bit of a splash and probably got a bit of press. So they're the ones I'd be following. I've got those links in there. In terms of Cars4 Motor Group, the two things I don't like in particular is just the name. It's long. It's just not a service that I think people can really relate to on an individual level. The other thing is this idea of having like cars for every different niche you can think of. I think it's sort of like you're taking the niching idea, but you're actually doing the opposite by niching down in like 20 different areas, which is not niching down at all. It's kind of just trying to be all things to all people. And I don't think when people go to a site like this, like if I was I don't know if I'm any of these. By the way, this animation is just a conversion killer, so I would ditch this. But let's say I don't even know what an EMS is. Say I'm definitely not a woman. Say I'm a tradie. If I go to this site, I can't imagine going here, looking at all of this, and then going, oh, I'm a tradie, I'll click on cars for tradies. I don't know. I mean, I might be wrong, and that's where testing comes in and talking to your customers comes in. But I think everyone has this fundamental problem in the same way, and you need to work out what that problem is, what their objections are, what their pain points are, and you need to solve that on the one page with the one simple brand that they can relate to, rather than these 20 different brands, which kind of makes you look like an even bigger company, which is probably going to turn people off even more. Anyway, that's all I've got on the overall name and business position, so you can take that advice if you like it, and if not, then I apologize for turning your business upside down. All right, copy. This is one of the hardest things. I just think this is something that we just struggle with all the time. Every business struggles with this, I think, if they don't employ full-time copywriters or if they can't afford to pay a copywriter. But the copy on this side is just not done particularly well at all. I mean, everything starting from the name, from the heading, all the way down here, the calls to action, everything, it's just not done particularly well. So, for example, the heading should be ideally a couple of words that really get people's attention, and this thing is just distracting me. I can't even stop it, I don't think. That's not going to stop it. So the capitals I don't like because they're very, very difficult to read. The heading doesn't stand out because all this other stuff stands out. Anyway, this is more design than copy, but in terms of the copy, this is just a really long sentence that no one can relate to. It's just, I don't think people will even read it. I think they'll read the first 3 lines, then they'll skip over it. Again, if you look at the other ones, just something either really simple or something that deeply connects people to the pain point or the objection that they're having. So I would probably work with the copywriter on this because I think this could be a good business. I think it would be worth putting some money into this and getting a good copywriter to help you. But something around the objections, like say, for example, if you talk to your customers and you find out, ask them why they didn't sign up or something, and you can use something like Qualaroo on your landing page and ask people, like what would it take for you to sign up right now, or why wouldn't you sign up right now, or even just ask people who did sign up and ask them what they're thinking beforehand. or ask your friends why they didn't, or whatever the case may be. Find out what those pain points are and what those objections are, and think of a headline that's based around those. So I would say my guess at what the objections are going to be, and this is based on what I thought when learning about your business, is one is I thought that I would have to pay, and I don't want to pay for someone to find me a car. The other is I thought that I'd be able to find the car myself. So your job, and whether this is right or not is up to you. You'd have to find out from your customers. But let's just assume for now that that is right. Your job is to convince me that I don't have to pay, and convince me that you can do a better job at finding the car than I can do. And you would probably do that by probably something to do with relationships or your network or something, some kind of software you've got or something that enables you to do things more efficiently than I can do them. And you need to be able to capture that in a couple of words. So I don't really want to give you examples on this presentation because I think a copywriter would spend a lot more time to think up what that headline might be. But it's got to be something dealing with the objections. So other stuff about this page, the headline, the font is too small. I don't think people will read it. The copy is just, it's not strong copy. People are not going to come here and think like, so what kind of car can we get for you today? This is based on you. This is not based on the person. So this kind of thing, like we are a buyer's agent, this doesn't mean anything to me as someone who's buying a car. Like what I want to see is we can find you a car. It won't cost you anything. We can find it quicker. We can get a better deal than you can get because we've got a massive network of dealers behind us, and we can find your car quicker, and it won't cost you anything, and it will be cheaper. And all you have to do is give me your email address or something very, very small, low friction, and we'll do the rest. That's all I need to know. I mean, if I come here, if I'm on car sales, click on an ad and come here, or even if I click on a blog post that teaches me how to, that reviews the latest AMG or something, all I need to know here is you need to convince me that I should sign up, and it's the process of signing up's got to be easy, and the copy's got to be limited, but it's got to actually sell me on signing up. So this copy here is just not very strong. So again, I've talked about the headline doesn't grab attention. It's too long. The capitals, font's too small. Copy like we are and put simply, like we did an interview with Dane Maxwell, which you can check out at wpcurve.com/copy, and he reviewed a bunch of sites, and I could just imagine him reviewing this and thinking like, if I put the word put simply into my copy, it's just a completely redundant piece of text. I mean, if you're putting something simply, you don't need to put simply because it's simple and people can tell that. So this is like a bunch of copy that is just completely kind of superfluous. And the more copy you put in there that isn't relating to that buyer's problems or their anxieties about purchasing, their objections, then it's just excess copy that's taking away from the message. And things like some people call us, and you may ask this, it's just really vague kind of unusual copy that doesn't represent what people are going to be thinking in their head when they hit your site. So I think you need to sit down with a copywriter, understand your customers better, and get inside their heads to work out what they're going to be thinking when they hit the site. These are the two things that I think. One is going to be around paying. They'll think they have to pay. And the other is they think they can do this job themselves. So you need to convince them that they can't do this job themselves. Now, conversion. This is probably where I'll spend the majority of the time. When Richard sent me this site for review, he sent me this page here. And he said, and I said, what do you want people to get out of going to this site? And he said, I want them to fill in the form. And I said, well, I can't see a form on the site. There's no form on there. He said, yeah, there's a form on every page. And I'm looking at this thing going, well, I can't see a form anywhere. There's no, that's not a form. That's like some module, and there's no button. There's just all this red moving stuff that's distracting me. So I took a screenshot of it, sent it to him. He's like, yeah, there's the form there on the left, the red form. So this is actually a form. And of course, if you click it, it goes away, which is totally bizarre. But the design of this is more like kind of like an old school module back in the Joomla days of having like modules on your page. And this looks like, it just does not look like a button, but it's not really a button. It's just kind of weird. Anyway, so this is not going to convert at all. No one is going to fill in this form. For starters, no one's going to know that that's how they fill in the form. No one's going to, I don't think anyone's even going to click that. They're not even going to see that is a form. So there's a few ways you can improve this. So shapes and colors. For one thing, what you should see when you go to this site is you should see one call to action that is your main call to action color, and it's shaped like a call to action. So again, with all of these examples, I'll just go back here. This one, it's very, very obvious. I mean, you can squint your eyes, you can stand 10 meters away from your computer or do whatever you want to do. It's very obvious what this person wants you to do on their site. There's one color that's for that. It's, it could look more like a button. And if you look at some of the other designs, you could probably see that they look a bit more like a button. This probably isn't necessarily the best example from that point of view, but the colors there, it's very obviously is a button. It's got a little arrow there. It's, different font and different size, and it's massive, so you can't miss it. So again, same as this, there's just a button right there. It's a color that stands out, and again there, and it's got the little arrow there. I mean, I'm not saying you need to copy this exact structure, but you need to have something that is a really clear call to action. So that's part of the problem. And I've mentioned the animation there. You just got to get rid of that. Just get rid of that whole thing. That's just going to scare people off, and it's not any kind of animation that adds no value like that is just going to kill conversions. Now with the form, what you want to do is start with the least amount of friction. So if you look at these examples here, I've picked HomeJoy, but you could pick any number of different startups that are trying to get people to buy something, and you can see the way they work, which is they don't ask for people for 20 things at once. And this example is in one way a good example because it steps out the process of signing up, but in another way, this is still a long way of purchasing something. A lot of other companies, especially in like with your example where you're dealing with people in person, I would definitely think about whether or not you can just get, like, what's the absolute minimum you can get from these people before you just to maybe call them and get the other details or something. I mean, if it costs you $30 to call these people and get more details, then build that into your price. Build that into your profit, because you're going to get loads more signups if you can just minimize the friction on that form. So one thing you could do is step the process out like this. So in this example, this is an example where they do need a lot of information from you. So this is like more of a traditional checkout, and they don't ask for it all in one place. They just first of all get you to click. In a lot of cases, they'll just get you to enter your email address first. And then once you've done that, you can then go through the rest of the process. Once you have their email address, you can chase them up for abandoned checkout, which you can do on here. You could potentially just say, enter your email address to get started. From there, they're on your email list. If they change their mind, then they're still on your email list. You can send them abandoned checkout notices, and you have their details, and you've got some way of marketing them. If they, at the moment, if they don't fill in the entire form, you just lose them forever. And that's going to be 99% of people, because people just aren't going to fill this form in. So a few things. One is you could step out the process. I would probably lean towards working out the absolute minimum amount of information you can get from people. What do you actually need to prove that they're legitimate and to, do whatever the next stage is, and then get the rest later. So you could either do it in a process. The other thing you could do is get their email address, and then once you've got their email address or whatever the minimum fields are, you could redirect them to another page that's optional that asks for more information. And what you'll find is, and that's what we do with our process. So once people sign up, all we do at the start is we get their email address, their name, and then we charge them. And then the additional information comes after that. So we make sure we get their money, we make sure we get their name and their email, because once we've got that, they're a customer. After that, if they want to take their time to fill in all the other details, whatever, that's fine. We can put them on a sequence to follow them up. We can call them if we have to, but if we get their email address and we get their payment, then they're a customer. In your case, you're not going to get their payment, but you want to get the minimum amount for them to be committed to the process, and then you can get the other stuff later. You can either do that with an optional form on the next page, or you can step it out like HomeJoy do, or you can just do it offline. And if that means paying someone, however much it costs to call them and work out all these details, then all you have to do is do that, work out how many of these people you actually convert into customers, and then you'll be able to work out how much it costs you to call them versus how much it's worth to your business, and just figure out a way to make that work, and figure out a way to, put more. The thing is, you don't want to get spammers or people who aren't serious signing up, so you're just going to have to balance what fields you ask for. I would say, like, if you ask for a phone number and say, we'll call you to get the rest of the details, then that might qualify a few people out. But you just need to find that balance where you ask for as little as possible, but also make sure you're getting serious people to sign up. So I've talked about the HomeJoy stuff. Again, just two more points in relation to conversion. You can do anything you want on the website itself, but there are a couple of factors that are going to have a massive impact on conversion. One is the overall design and the name. So again, I've talked about the name there. I think that's a factor that's going to impact on conversion. I think if it was a really simple like service, like findmycar.com, or I'm not that good at coming up with examples on the spot, but if it was something that people could really relate to and just really simple, I think they're much more likely to convert. I think the name impacts it, the brand impacts it, the design has a massive impact on it as well. So people will just make an immediate decision about the website and the business behind the website when they go there and they look at the design, and they'll decide whether or not they even want to give you your email address based on the quality of that design. So I would definitely be thinking about design and the branding in terms of conversions. And then traffic source, again, has a massive impact. So I know when I spoke to Richard, he mentioned kind of doing some content and driving some leads to the site. And it's worth thinking about why people are going to the site and how to convert those people. So just as a really simple example, if you put an ad up on carsales.com.au, it just says, not enjoying the car search, let us find your car for free or something. Those people will go to your site. They're ready to go. They're ready to convert them straight away, and they'll need a page that's ready for them to sign up to straight away. If you put some content out there on, reviewing the latest AMG, and I go to your site, I might be 6 months away from buying that car, but there is something I do need. I need good information about the car. I need reliable content and help. I'll probably want to learn about the car, maybe even want to learn about the process of buying. There's a lot of stuff you can do to engage me a long time before I'm ready to buy. And so the conversion goal for that type of customer is totally different to the conversion goal for someone who's hitting your site with the intention to sign up and get started. So that's worth thinking about. I think like if you have a blog and you have content on the site, then your conversion goal might be to opt in for your emails. But if it's a homepage and people are being sent there via direct, like a kind of direct marketing call to action for them to respond immediately, then that goal is for them to sign up. So think about the traffic source, where they're coming from, and what you want them to do as a result of hitting your site, and that's going to have a really big impact on conversion. All right, I have three more final bits that weren't part of the three things I want to discuss, but three things that I will mention anyway. The first is mobile responsiveness. Again, what we normally do for this is just think about the customer and think about how they'll be accessing the site. Is mobile a big deal for your customers? I don't know, but you probably do. You can just check analytics and see what your percentage of mobile visits are. If they're over about 10 or 15%, then I would have a decent mobile responsive site. When I look at your site at the moment, it looks like it kind of tries to be mobile responsive, but it doesn't do a particularly good job. So you can see that's cut off. So it's not really mobile responsive at all. Well, this bit's responsive. But yeah, there's all kinds of weird shit going on here. So, that I think that is probably just something these days. It's almost at the point where you just have to make your site responsive because it's like a credibility thing, and just an overall branding thing. But also, I would definitely look at the amount of people accessing the site from a mobile, and if there is a lot, then that's definitely something to think about. The other thing is the speed of the site. I did a speed test and it came out at 5 seconds, which is not really fast enough. I've got some resources on there where you can look at the speed to improve the speed, and I'll talk about those later. That measures it from the US. I know this is targeting people in Australia, so you might want to think about that. Just anecdotally, clicking around the site, it seems slow. Like it seems a lot slower than 5 seconds. So I don't know if it's hosted overseas or what's going on there, but I can send you an article that tries to get that load time down. And I would try to get it to like 2 to 3 seconds, ideally. Anything better than that is just a bonus. But 5 seconds or something that feels like more than that is too slow, and it's going to kill your conversions. SEO basics, I've got an article I can point you to for that as well. I just had a really quick look at the site, and one really simple thing with SEO is just to make sure your main headings are done with a H1 tag and your subheadings are done with a H2 tag. So if I was to go to your site, I would expect if this was the main heading of the site, this would be a H1, and this page doesn't really have subheadings, but if it did, it would be H2 tags. On your theme, I think your logo is a H1 and this 1300 number is a H1, and then these other stuff are H2s. It's just all like coded really weird, and that's going to affect SEO. So that's a really simple fix for someone to work on the theme and just fix that up. It's probably like an hour job, but that's going to have a big impact on your SEO. So have a think about that. And when you get to doing content, that's going to be really important as well. All right, let me send you to some other resources that might help. wpcurve.com/review is where our website review template is. You can download that for free, and you can analyze your own website against all of the different criteria I've talked about here. wpcurve.com/copy is the interview we did with Dane Maxwell, and there's a copywriting PDF that is a really good place to get started with copywriting. It's just like a way to really simply understand how to write for your customers rather than writing for yourself, which the current site is more written about your understanding of your own business, not written to a customer who's thinking about purchasing from you. So that copywriting PDF will help you with that. wpcurve.com/WordPress-speed. I didn't even check to see if the site was WordPress, but whether it is or not, that post will help you get the site faster, because I think it needs to be faster if you want decent conversions. wpcurve.com SEO will give you a little bit more information about those SEO. There's 4 or 5 things that I always do on a site as a really bare minimum for SEO, and the headings is like H1 tags is one of them, and I talk about that in that article, and also talk about how I go about creating content that drives customers and gets traffic from Google. It's not complicated stuff at all. Like we're not SEO experts at all, but we get, I think, about 10,000 plus visits a month from Google just from following that basic kind of structure. wpcurve.com blog is our blog, and there's a whole bunch of stuff up on there that'll be useful if you're an entrepreneur or if you're interested in online marketing. And you can get on my email list by going to wpcurve.com/subscribe. And this type of content gets sent out every week. I send an email every week, and sometimes I ask people if they want me to review their site, and that's how this came about. So jump on that email list, and you can reply to all the emails, or to any email, and I read and reply to all of them. So feel free to do that. And if you've got any questions, then please email me, dan@wpcurve.com. One final thing, if you're someone who's an online influencer or an online marketing expert and you want to add to this conversation, then please go to wpcurve.com/cars and leave Richard a comment in the down the bottom of that post. We've got a comment area, and I'd love for you to go there and leave a comment on there about what you think. I mean, you might disagree with what I've said here, you might agree, you might have some other ideas. Anything is fine. Just go there, leave a comment, and help Richard out. And that would be cool. I hope this has been useful. And anyone else watching this who's interested in what we do, you can check out wpcurve.com. We do unlimited WordPress support and small jobs 24/7 from $69 per month. Okay, thanks guys. See you next time.